All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Parker Gray, and I am the Adult Services Librarian at the Fredericksburg branch. And for today's Lunch and Learn, I have Sheila Miller, who is with INELDA. Remind me again, Sheila? I had it right in front of me. The
International
International
Doula Association.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I will let you start your presentation.
All right, well, great. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sheila Miller, and we're going to go over what an end-of-life doula is. So next slide. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and how I got into this line of work. My story, I have been an occupational therapist for more than 20 years. My background is in long-term care, acute care, and inpatient rehab. And I actually became a full-time caregiver during the COVID pandemic. Like a lot of us, career shift changes during that time, but it was during this time frame my mom was diagnosed with cancer and eventually was placed on hospice. And during this period, I actually had firsthand encountered the difficulties that families face while navigating the healthcare system. There is a significant gap between the medical model of care and the practical hands-on support that loved ones truly required. And as a healthcare provider, there's often time limitations and productivity and caseload management. And as a family member caring for a loved one, my mom, I really felt unprepared for the end of life. And I was actually caught off guard, even with all of my background and experience. So that is what motivated me to look into end-of-life care. It really helped motivate me to bridge that gap between the medical care and the hands-on support that's needed. And next slide. So today for the agenda, we'll go over what an end-of-life doula is, our history and background, what we do and what we can't do, the benefits for the dying and their loved ones, how doulas work alongside hospice, and also resources to connect with a doula. Next slide. So what is an end-of-life doula? We are often referred to as death doulas or soul midwives. And I like to say the essence of doula care is to provide non-medical support. You'll hear that a lot. It is non-medical support and guidance. And we offer that through emotional, spiritual, and practical assistance to individuals and families throughout the dying process. And before I get into specific examples, I'll go over the origins of doula care. Next slide. So for our history, so end-of-life companionship is deeply rooted in ancient practice found in many cultures. Not so much in the US, but caring for the dying was a community role, especially where you have multi-generational homes. So in the US, Medicare hospice benefit was established in the 1980s. It was actually 1982. And then the modern death doula movement started in the late 1990s. And that was actually inspired by the natural birth movement, home birth, water birth, and we kind of followed along with that. There is a growing demand for end-of-life care with our growing aging population, and also as society has become more clinical in dealing with death and dying. And a lot of people have asked me, well, isn't that what hospice is for? Don't they manage the death and dying? Isn't that what it's funded for? And the answer is yes and no. Excuse me. Next slide. So I like to say that hospice takes care of the body and a death doula takes care of the experience. Doulas complement hospice in the medical care. So hospice is medical care, medical advice, med management, symptom management, and pain management. Whereas a doula is non-clinical. We do not replace hospice. It's not an either or. I like to work in conjunction with hospice providers to bridge the gap between the clinical team and the family and the needs of the dying person. By focusing on emotional, spiritual, and practical needs that the medical systems may not cover. Some things could be like coordination of schedules, managing bedside atmosphere, and ensuring that the family feels supported throughout the process. And I'll go over more examples as we go along. But I do like to say that doulas are an extra set of eyes, that we see things that the family may not pick up on, and that we will then share with the hospice team. So together, the hospice and end-of-life doulas can collaborate and work as partners to deliver comprehensive care. And then next slide. So here's some examples of the difference. So hospice will come in and they will manage the pain, the medications, oxygen, and equipment, where a death doula can explain what dying looks like so that the family isn't afraid. Hospice nurse visits for an assessment, where a death doula can sit for hours during the active dying phase. The hospice team leaves after death, and the death doula stays to support family through the entire moment. Now, I have had some hospice nurses present as well. It's really up to the dying person and their loved ones as to what that looks like. And the next slide. So here are some things that death doulas do not do. We do not give medications. We do not provide clinical care. We do not replace hospice. We are, in addition, we are support to hospice. We do not make medical decisions for the person or offer therapy or counseling. So these are some things that are in our scope of practice, what doulas can do. Non-medical holistic support, which can include advanced care planning, guidance around medical directives. And I like to say we help by assisting the clients in gathering the information and encouraging them to make informed choices that are right for them in a supportive environment. And I believe the key is to educate and enable individuals, their family members, their loved ones to make informed decisions out of knowledge and not from a place of panic or fear or anxiety or pressure. And then once those choices are made, we can advocate for the person's wishes and values when they're no longer able to communicate. We help bridge that communication between the loved ones and advocating for the person's wishes. The next one. This also falls within our scope of practice, legacy projects. This can be things like writing letters to your loved ones, making videos, memory making, planning things with your loved ones, sharing your story in whatever creative way that you would like to. It could be through art, it could be through video, through music. It's really sharing your story. There's also something called Swedish death cleaning, and that is helping assist and organize your belongings and gifting family members and friends with your belongings so that they don't have to come in behind you and clean up and not know what's important to you and the value behind it. So it's a really nice gift actually to be able to go through that with people so that their loved ones then have like a memento, like this really meant a lot to, their friends and why it was important to them. And the next slide. Emotional support is a big part of what doulas do. And this is comfort and presence during the dying process at bedside, where we can stay for long periods of time. We can sit overnight so the family can go and rest. We can explain the dying process in non-clinical language and be emotionally available without a time limitation or pressure. So every individual And family is different, and so are their needs. And so doulas can adapt to the unique needs and requirements of each family. And I would encourage everyone to discuss with your doula your wishes for your time in hospice, explore your ideas on death, and what you would like for your funeral or memorial service. That is something also that a doula can help you prepare for. The next one. So this is my favorite part of being a doula. Everybody has a like a little niche. I really enjoy the bedside companionship. What this does, it decreases stress and confusion and the burden of care on your loved ones. And we're following the client's expressed wishes for their final days. And this could look like, who do you want in your room? Who is your inner circle? What sounds, smells, lighting, and touch preferences do you want? Do you want someone holding your hand? Do you want the TV on? Do you want nice music? Do you want like a candle lit? Do you want someone saying prayers or reading scripture or any sort of ritual? And it's sitting vigil with the dying so that they are not alone. And it definitely provides comfort to caregivers and helps prevent burnout for those you love. The next. So benefits of doula care. It's guidance through an unfamiliar process. The education is important. It really helps normalize the dying process and reduces the fear and stigma surrounding the end of life. So phases of doula support. So doulas support the entire continuum of the dying process, from early conversations and planning through the final days and then into the bereavement period. So we work in alignment with hospice to provide holistic care for the client. And I do want to emphasize, you do not need a hospice diagnosis to work with a death doula. So before hospice, this is like if you're just thinking about planning, conversations, and emotional preparation. And then alongside hospice, this could be days of weeks for the active dying phase, the vigil presence, the bedside, comfort and environmental support. And then after hospice, this would be transitional support for your family and loved one. And this would be grief support, closing rituals, and family follow-up. And the next slide. So when should you contact an end-of-life doula? And so many people assume you only contact a doula in the final days, but actually the earlier, the better. A doula can provide valuable guidance from the moment of diagnosis, helping with advanced care planning, emotional processing, or preparing the legacy work. There's no wrong time to reach out, but reaching out earlier does allow for more meaningful, holistic support and care. And I did read somewhere, I don't know the exact statistic, but oftentimes people only agree to hospice in the very end when there's like a 3-day expectation. And I found I was gifted with this time with my mom, and we had almost a year, and we really made the most of that last year. It was really about the quality of life, not prolonging, but the quality of life, and that was very special for both of us. Next slide. So why this work matters. And I find this is a simple answer, but this is what I say. Your life matters, and so does your death. So doing this end-of-life doula work, it reminds us that death, like birth, it is a sacred transition. It honors the person and their dignity in the final stages of life. It ensures that no one dies alone, if that's what the dying person wishes. It also recognizes that dying people need more than symptom control, which hospice is wonderful at, but there's a lot more emotions that come into it that hospice cannot be there all the time for. It is personalized care. It is tailored specifically to you. And we support caregivers and family members who often feel overwhelmed, alone and scared. And this goes for almost anyone who's ever taken care of another human being, whether it be a child or an aging parent or a loved one. It's exhausting to care for somebody. And sometimes you need a little break, and doulas can really help with that. We help families find peace and meaning and closure in the final chapter of life. The next slide. So how to become a doula. So all of the training is voluntary certification through professional organizations. So right now there's no state or federal licensing exists. So these training and certification programs, they typically focus on the same things, which would be ethics, confidentiality, boundaries, informed consent, communication, grief, and cultural sensitivity. So even though we are non-medical, it does not mean that we are not qualified. There is training that goes into this. I'm trained by ANELDA, and I put some other ones on here, some other professional certification programs, and there's University of Vermont that also has one. And I would encourage you, if this is something that you are interested in, either as a line of work, I would consider reaching out to local hospices. That's how I got into it. I reached out and I started volunteering, and yeah, that's how I decided, like, this is the line of work. This is the next path for me. Yes. So next slide. So I have some questions here to ask potential doulas. I find families oftentimes, they don't know what kind of support they need, and that's okay. Most families don't, and a death doula will meet you where you are and helps you figure out what you need and what would help you feel most supportive step by step. So here are some questions that I have that you can just, for reference, look at in the future. And then we'll go to the next one. And I've provided some resources and further reading. Here's some books that I've really enjoyed. The last one on here, Gone From My Side, is a very thin little book, and I tend to give this to all of my clients for their family members. It's a very simplified, non-clinical way in explaining what's happening. And it brought me a lot of comfort, and it has brought clients of mine a lot of comfort in that. And then also I have the last is Grief Share, which is a support group. And they meet online, virtually, or in churches and libraries. So I find that those have been very helpful too in helping people once their loved ones have passed, and kind of healing and just kind of coping and processing through what they saw, what they witnessed, what the experience was like. And the next one. And so I just want to say thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon. Dying is a sacred transition, and the more we talk about it, the more we can reduce the fear and increase the peace for all involved. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I would love to talk to you and to see how I can help you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I learned a lot from it. I didn't know much about, end-of-life care or, end-of-life doula care. And I did want to ask you, how do you initially meet with, do you call them clients?
Yes, I would refer to them as clients. So far, I've done by word of mouth, and I do like a free consultation, a 15-minute over the phone. And if you feel like it's a good fit, then we would meet in person and then go from there based on what your needs are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering about that. If you work with local hospice organizations.
I volunteer, but I don't do doula care through the hospice. That's on the side. So. Gotcha. But I do volunteer through hospice agency.
Okay, great. All good information. So, okay, well, thank you very much for doing this presentation. And I hope everybody, learned some helpful information. All right. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you for having me.